Welcome back. You're watching our Diwali special, Samvat 2068. I'm in conversation with Manish Chokhani, Akash Prakash, Sameer Arora and N. Jayakumar, and they've been sounding quite circumspect about the year ahead. Jakes, would you concede that some damage to the India perception has happened? Because we keep hearing this talk from a lot of people who believe plenty.
I think plenty has happened, there's no question. And I'm not running away from that, which is why I'm saying that any investment in this country, needs to be done with passion. Ultimately, pulling Sameer's leg a bit, if the greatest passionate bull in India is today as diffident and as despondent as he is, I think it's a matter of great sorrow, if you will, that one of the greatest ambassadors of the country from an investment perspective to the outside world is today doing it more because it's a chore rather than because he wants to do it with passion. I think a number of us here in the market still believe that we are in the investment world not because we have to, but because we want to be. And I think therein lies the difference. I do concede a hell of a lot of damage has happened as far as the Indian image outside is concerned. On the other hand, this entire catharsis in terms of public outcry towards corruption and the way business has been conducted by large corporate houses, I think it's a huge outcry, and hopefully that will find its final call, as it were. Given all that, I'm of the view that change is already underway, and the market this year initially underperformed its peers significantly, and for good reasons that we couldn't find at that time, but reasons that emerged later. And right now it seems to be showing some kind of strength or whatever, and ultimately we know whether it's politicians as a result of a survival instinct or bureaucrats will only under pressure perform. So there is a little hope that they will perform, they will come out with some of the steps mentioned, but you can't run away from the fact. But in the interim, your insurance policies by investing in companies that are not completely geared towards this space. I mean, the entire, look at all the sectors that have got damaged: telecom, oil marketing companies, the entire subsidy issue. You talk about, the thing about fertilizer subsidy, yes, no, pricing. I mean, everything which has anything to do with the mining scam, coal, all these industries have got hurt, and these are a big component of the index. So the market in its wisdom has moved towards giving some companies a 30+ PE while maintaining others at sub 10. And evolving this hybrid Nifty PE of 12 or 12.5 or 13 or whatever. But I think from our perspective, for those who want to invest, I think there's fabulous value. Unfortunately, we're poor on timing, and therefore we need to be fully invested. But I think the big difference is that if for foreign fund managers, and I don't consider the two people here as foreign fund managers, I hear because it's their job and they need to do it, I think the final capitulation is already in the works.
Comment on that, Manish, because a lot of people do believe that maybe because of the EFSF and whatever is being worked out, we may not have that massive leg down that people are anticipating or expecting. Do you think it could work out that way, or your base case is that market cycles always move the same way and we will get our leg of capitulation down?
Well, I'm like Jigs and Sameer. We like to be bullish, but also I'm a realist, and all the things he's mentioning are consistent with a market which makes a climatic top, then you get a crash, and then the leadership narrows and you get this cyclical rally where leadership narrows and it comes into the so-called defensives, which is classic cycle which is played out. So you've got the Nestle's and the Titans and so on holding out. The eventual collapse, if and when it occurs when there's disappointment here, where you've priced in 35% growth and it comes at 25. Nothing wrong with it, but then people say, what was I paying for?
In the defensives, you
In
mean?
the defensives.
Okay.
And that's when the revulsion starts setting in that, we were completely wrong, and why the hell were we here in the first place? And what you're seeing in Singapore, Akash and Sameer both are based in Singapore, and I think Singapore represents complete capitulation to me. I've been around the world over the last 2 months. Singapore sentiment towards India is, I've never seen this in 20 years. Hong Kong is slightly better. Europe says, you guys look fantastic. What's the worry? Why are you blaming your politicians? Ours are even bigger idiots. And this whole EFSF ploy is really another fix that the junkie is getting. This creates the grounds for another sort of temporary rally, but it is creating additional source of borrowing to keep the patient alive. It's not solving the fundamental problem of how will this patient repay. And if you go back and see what happened in the US, QE1 gave us a breather for whatever 6 months. QE2 breather lasted for 1 month, which is why they don't discuss QE3. Europe is getting into that same trap, and I suspect whether it's US, Europe, Japan, we're all in for serious GDP shrinkage in real terms, and they have to keep pumping their GDP by printing more money. Incrementally, I see $4 being created of money for $1 of GDP, and frighteningly, it's even China which is showing those trend lines now, because post 2007 crisis, all their export money got diverted to building out infrastructure. Now they have so much infrastructure, they don't know now what else to do to keep their GDP alive, and that ties in with this commodity collapse as well, which looms ahead. The commodity complex is also displaying classic signs where, except for oil, gold, and what I call energy-related plays, which have held out, the rest have completely collapsed. So you take all the base metals, if you think the world has to build infrastructure, why are those commodities down 20-30% even? So the cycle is consistent. I don't think one says it will repeat exactly as it did in the past, but the way it plays out typically is a peak of interest rates and inflation followed by a drastic cutting of interest rates in India, and people are just so skeptical they won't want that credit because they don't see that demand. Money remains plentiful, and then someone surprisingly comes and creates a regulatory change, just as we didn't, I think, in 2003 expect privatization to be uttered. All in 1991 we said, throw out the whole industrial licensing handbook. I think we need a big, massive reform thrust of that nature to catalyze India back to a bull market. Otherwise, this is going to be a painful rounding process.